Okay, doing cheese fondue today. All right, we're going to be using the double boiler method. And if you have a hot pot or a fondue pot, you can use that. But I'm just going to be doing the double boiler method to show people how it's done in case they've never tried that before and in case they don't have a fondue maker. Okay, so the first thing I did is I shredded a 1 pound block of Swiss cheese. You can use cheddar if you like, but I like Swiss. Now you're going to get down so far with the shredder, and then you're going to have to do some cutting, because if you keep on with the shredder, you could cut your hands. And so I just took the little block that was left and sliced it up into small pieces. Now you're going to need 3/4 cup of dry white wine. And I have winemaker's Sauvignon Blanc, okay? You can use any dry white wine. The rule is if you wouldn't drink it out of a glass, don't put it in your food. So it has to taste good to you by itself. If you do not want to use alcohol, you can do 3/4 cup of chicken broth. But you need to add an acid such as juice from half of a lemon, okay? Because that's what the wine is here to do. It's supposed to provide the acid. It helps with the emulsification of the, melting the cheese and everything, and gives it a good consistency. So like I said, if you don't want to use an alcoholic beverage, you can use 3/4 cup chicken broth and the juice from half of a lemon in place of that. You will also need 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Here I have a small saucepan and about a 1/2 inch of water in the bottom. And for the double boiler, I'm going to be using a Pyrex bowl. Okay, it has to be something that is friendly with high temperatures. It doesn't have to be the Pyrex brand, but you get the idea. And the water should not touch the bottom of the bowl. So there needs to be some space between the water and the bowl. Now when this starts to boil, you will see water attach itself to the bottom of the bowl, and that's okay. Now before we get started, we're going to talk about dippers a little bit. We got some grapes, some Fuji apples, some dill pickles, and some little smokies. Also, I bought a French baguette loaf of bread, which is about maybe $2 at Walmart, and cut it up. I cut it down the center, and then I cut the pieces in half, and they're like maybe 1.5 inch chunks. Okay, we're boiling. So the first thing we do is we add our cornstarch and wine mixture, and we stay with it. We stir it. We turn the heat down for one thing. And when it starts to thicken, you're ready to add the cheese. Before adding the cheese, it should have the consistency of a smooth gravy. If it gets too thick, you can add a little wine to it to thin it down. In the case of not using wine, chicken broth. Right now, I'm using a whisk for stirring, but I'm going to have to switch to a silicone spatula when I start adding cheese. Otherwise, you'll just have a really gunked up whisk. Once it's kind of like a really thin gravy, add a little nutmeg if you're using Swiss cheese. That's maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. Now start adding cheese a little at a time. Let it melt some, and then add some more. There will be a scary stage where you just think you have a glop of mess. You just keep on keeping on with the stirring and letting it melt. I've got it on high right now, but the steam, as you can see, really comes out the side of the pot, so don't let the steam get you. It does hurt if it gets on your skin. Now remember how I said just keep on keeping on? You see how much more incorporated the cheese is getting with the wine and cornstarch? Okay, this whole thing, you know, it might take about maybe half an hour on top of the stove here. And what to do once you have a sauce? Well, You can put it in butter warmers and put tea light candles underneath to keep it warm. Those are individual butter warmers. If you don't have those, that's fine. Just take a hot plate, set it on your table, and take the double boiler, the pot, and the glass bowl with the cheese in it, set it on top of the table, and everybody can just dip from the same bowl. So as you can see, we're almost there. So now I've turned the heat way down to about 3 or 4, and I added just a touch, maybe a couple of tablespoons of wine, okay, because I want mine to be just a little bit thinner. That's about how I like it, right there. So this will fill about 5 butter warmers, and it's about a ½ cup serving in each one, so that's quite a bit of cheese. So this easily serves 4 or 5 people. Okay, and so I've lit the tea lights in order to keep the cheese warm. Okay, so now it's time to get the dippers out and give it a try. And by the way, you do not need these. You can just, like I said, you can serve it on the table, put it on a hot plate. Just observe little ones, make sure they're not going to go too wild and tip the cheese out of the pot and all that. Also, check your pot every once in a while and make sure it still has water in it. I was almost out of water when all my cheese was melted. So that's why you got to check it. So you can easily see how this could become a very inexpensive dinner. 2 apples is plenty for like 4 people. 1 small box of grapes. I mean, it was just like maybe 2 cups, okay, divided by 4. This is like 4 pickles cut into chunks. 1 package of little Smokies divided by 4. So, you know, this is not very expensive. And it's a little break from the norm. It's a little break from the meatloaf and the pork chops or whatever it is, you know, with the 2 sides. Just to have a little something different. Now let's review these butter warmers. How do they do? I would give them a C+, okay? You can't leave this stuff in a butter warmer for, say, more than half an hour, in my personal opinion. Okay? They just kind of help it stay warm after you've already cooked it. It needs to go into the ramekins already warm. This one, for some reason, is working a little bit more slowly. But if you leave it too long, I can see where the tea lights might burn your cheese on the bottom. So anyway, like I said, it's probably just best to take a hot plate, put it on the table, and put your double boiler with cheese on the table, and just serve it from a common pot like that. So I'm going to take this baguette, I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut it into 1-inch pieces. I forgot to mention earlier, cherry tomatoes are also a nice dipper. And if you don't have any baguette, you can use soft pretzels. You can use hard pretzels for your bread. It doesn't matter. This is to be customized to your liking. As far as the little Smokies go, I just put them in the oven on 325 for about 20 minutes to heat them up. That's it. So let's say you are maybe thinking about getting a non-stick fondue pot. This is a 1-quart pot. It's made by Fondue. You can also do like Korean hot pot in this and whatnot. The thing you got to keep in mind is it says non-stick, and there's a non-stick coating, but you have these little fondue forks. And when people dig around in the bottom and all that and stab at their food, it's going to scratch your non-stick pot. So just keep that in mind, you know, that you're going to be replacing it in maybe, I don't know, a year, maybe 2, depending on how often you use it. So, like I said, this is something that you can put on the table. And it's going to be more stable than a double boiler on a hot pot. On a hot plate. Got a hot pot on the brain right now. Need to head for a Korean restaurant right away. So anyway, yeah, just showing you around the world of fondue. It's not as expensive as you would think. It's not as complicated as you would think. And like I said, I think it's a great way to use up all the little this and that you have in the refrigerator, all the little bits and pieces. It's a great way to bring it all together, dip it in cheese, and not let it go to waste.